Minnesota Democrats show Biden and Schumer how to wield power. Oh, this is a Majority Report segment. You know, I'll watch a bit of the Majority Report. We talked about this, though, how the Minnesota Dems just barely managed to eke forward like a majority and then immediately passed like 67 laws. You know that image? New York Democrats with a supermajority, and it's the Clintons, and then Midwestern Democrats with a one vote majority, and it's Lenin.
American Prospect has a great story on what's happening in Minnesota, and we've had people IM quite a bit. We mentioned this yesterday, I think it was. Minnesota, like in 2016, people were worried that Minnesota was going red. And even in 2020, Republicans had maintained control of the state Senate in Minnesota when Biden had won in the state. In 2022, the Democratic farmer...
We can watch a minute of Sam Seder, can't we? And then we'll do the segments in the title. This is fine. I like Sam Seder. You like Sam Seder? We all like Sam Seder.
Labor Party, the DFL.
And Emma.
That's sort of like, that's instead of the Democratic Party there, right?
Yeah, it sort of grew up from like the 1920s, 30s populist movement.
They gained 3 Senate seats. They have a 1-seat majority in the Senate. They also have the House, and they have Democratic Governor Tim Walz, who easily won, I guess. So this is the first trifecta they've had for almost 8 years. And this is what they've managed to do. I mean, it's amazing.
Historic.
Historic. And I guess their session just ended. They have a bill that, a law now they've passed, mandates paid sick days for almost all workers. It accrues at the rate of 1 hour per 30 hours worked up to a maximum of 48 hours. Forbids non-compete agreements in labor.
Hey, no non-compete allowed in the state of Minnesota. Just 49 more states to go, plus D.C. and Puerto Rico, and we're set.
Contracts. That 48 hours would probably work out to 12 days. It forbids non-compete agreements in labor contracts. It establishes sectoral bargaining system for nursing homes. That's huge. That means it's not just a matter of a nursing home that people that nurses can strike against or bargain with. It's across all of the nursing homes. It allows teachers to negotiate class sizes. It bans captive audience meetings where employers force their workers to listen to anti-union propaganda.
Fuck yes.
It also
Fuck yes. Oh my God.
Also sets up protections for meat packers, construction workers, and Amazon employees. I think we mentioned that the other day, actually. And they just passed another bill 2 days ago that guarantees a minimum wage for Uber and Lyft drivers.
Yeah. That's incredible. That's really encouraging, especially given like what we saw in California some years ago. There's this great video going around. I mean, you guys, we have it, but we don't need to play it.
That's a good immediate comparison. It's so funny because I lived in California for most of my life. It's so funny how everyone thinks that California is like this liberal bastion state when it's not. All of California politics is controlled by a group of 5 boomers who bought like houses in Long Beach for $50 back in 1972 and desperately don't want to like pay don't want to pay property taxes for a current evaluation of the wealth of their property. That's all of California politics, okay? It's just landowners who got lucky in the 70s. There's nothing past that. Oh my God.
But the legislator, State Senator Omar Fateh, he was lifted into the air by a bunch of Uber and Lyft drivers, chanting him. Let's play it. I have it. I sent it in the chat there. But that's really like this. They legalized pot. They expanded public college, making it free for a lot more families too. Right.
They also
more funding for public defenders.
This is after the Uber Lyft bill was passed on Sunday, guarantees a minimum wage for Uber and Lyft drivers.
This is what actual politics looks like. We so rarely see anything close to this level of enthusiasm in America because our politicians are ghouls. But in real life, like, politicians have the ability to just uplift so many people. They like it's not all you know, one like all slices from the same pie, mutually exclusive bullshit. You can just do good things. No Republican will ever experience this. Few Democrats will, but no Republicans will. One of the things that makes this so exciting is that a lot of gig drivers are immigrants and non-white people. Like, if you've ever ordered from DoorDash or Uber Eats, or hell, taken an Uber, I'm gonna guess like something like 4 out of 5 times the person driving you around was definitely not born in America, right? Yeah. And the reason for that is just because, you know, immigrants tend to be pushed into the most exploitative jobs, and those are those. And it's disgusting how they get treated, but a lot of people won't fight for them because, again, we're not talking about a bunch of like you know, pearly white college student you know graduates in a tech field or whatever. We're talking about people who come here with a family or who send remittances back home or whatever else, and you know, they're a vulnerable group.
So cool.
It is pretty cool. Can you bet on re-election numbers?
Yeah, honestly.
The other big policy they passed is paid family and medical leave. So people who have earned at least $3,500 over the past year will be eligible for up to 12 weeks of benefits in both categories. This is a maximum of 20 weeks per year. Benefits will be calculated with a progressive replacement rate, 90% of prior wages under half the state wage, 66% up to the full average, plus 55% above the average. I mean, that, you know, it's not a perfect policy. It would be good to do it.
That's pretty good, like, relative to the standards we have, though. You know, I mean, that's a jump, certainly.
Regardless of if you know, based upon what you're earning now as opposed to what had been, you know, for all parents, even if you hadn't worked.
I love checking emails. Hello, Vosh. I have seen some of your YouTube videos. I think your opinions are bad and you spread a lot of misinformation. To me, you are an ideologue who contributes nothing but negativity to discourse. I would ask you to debate me, but what I really want is for you to pound my slur ass until I can't feel it anymore. You are exactly my type, and I hate it because I hate you. I would worship your cock, though. I bet Sam Seder gets a lot of emails like this.
Worked over the last 12 months. In other words, just a minimum benefit. We did that with the child, you know, earned or the child tax credit. Minnesota has a universal free school breakfast and lunch program.
Mm-hmm.
It's only the 3rd in the nation. They passed.
Oh, reminder, by the way, that free school lunches are so politically popular that the Black Panther Party shamed, was it Chicago, into doing it to subvert them. Basically, the Black Panther Party started offering free breakfast before school to kids in their neighborhood in Chicago, like lots of them. I mean, Chicago's a big city. And like it was leading to so much popularity for the Black Panther Party, which Chicago did not want. So Chicago started its own early breakfast meal program. And then, of course, you know, the Black Panther Party fell apart after the state mandate assassination of Fred Hampton and others. And then Chicago stopped doing the breakfast program because the only reason they were feeding black kids in the morning was to subvert the Black Panther Party. They defunded it like as soon as they could. They literally only did it to keep people from sympathizing with the Black Panthers. They didn't give a shit.
A law to protect abortion rights. It is already legal in Minnesota, but not a bad thing to do at this point.
It, yeah.
Well, because that's where the clinic in North Dakota moved right across the river into Moorhead, Minnesota. So that's the one clinic basically servicing North Dakota is in Minnesota.
They have passed a slate of pro-LGBT protections. One bill banned conversion therapy.
Based.
Two others protected non-residents seeking gender-affirming care or abortions from being punished or extradited by conservative states. Incidentally, if you're Canadian, sign that petition. It's the last day, I think, to sign that petition to welcome folks seeking asylum because of repressive anti-trans laws in this country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Minnesota is one of the states that's beginning a kind of like trans refugee like safety state. Canada is doing the same thing where it like they are assessing their definitions and basically saying like, or they're building a legal process where if you are transgender, like it would be easier for you to flee on the basis of you being a persecuted minority. Like that's how bad things are. That that Canada, like to the north, is doing this.
We can put that in the chat, in the podcast and YouTube description again. They've legalized recreational marijuana. They've instituted automatic voter registration. Also super important and super smart. Restoration of voting rights to felons. Gun control measures. A huge education overhaul, making prison calls free, and a law allowing unauthorized immigrants to get driver's license. State budget poised to increase by 40%. All this stuff is great, and
they did it in like 5 days.
Vote. Will you just do we have that clip of Waltz signing something?
Yeah. The gun legislation.
Yeah, this is the gun legislation, just as an example.
But it is a good day. In the State of the State speech I gave a little over a month ago, I said, if anyone in America doubts that we are going to do everything to protect our children, I said, watch us. And this group here has been watching and trying to protect our children and our families and our communities for decades, quite literally decades. The issues that we will sign today are two very simple, common sense issues that have been being asked to be debated here at the Capitol for decades, and even that small request was not honored until this year. And the leadership you're going to hear from in the House and the Senate around the whole spectrum of public safety, a transformational bill to make our communities safer, to bring restorative justice into the forefront, and to have the most basic protections around firearms that we can put into place in the state is going.
This guy's cool because phrenologically he's a Republican, so you know that his genes are fighting against him when he says this. You know what I mean? He's like, this is like Spider-Man, like leaning forward to burst through the venom that's consuming his costume. Like his face is poking out, and he's like, yeah, yeah. He fights against his nature, and for that, he is stronger than us all.
Going to happen. This is an issue some of you have heard me talk about for a long time. I grew up around firearms. I've hunted my entire life. I own them to this day. I used them in the military. And when asked, I will tell people I was the top gun of the congressional trap shoot 3 years in a row.
King.
I know how to use these things. I understand our rights as Americans to do these things. But I refuse to allow extremists to define what responsible gun ownership looks like and to make this about the Second Amendment. This is not about the Second Amendment. This is about the safety of our children and our communities. That's what's happening here today.
So, I mean, you pair this with the LGBTQ protections. You pair this with all of the really important economic protections, obviously the abortion rights, but when you're talking about parental leave and you're talking about medical leave and you're talking about free lunches and you're, I mean, on and on.
Banning non-competes is a great pro-worker move too.
Paid sick leave, and basically what they're doing is they are
non-compete agreements should just be illegal, like period, 100%. Non-compete agreements are some of the most like overtly, objectively psychotic shit in the universe. What are they? It just means that if you get fired or you quit or whatever else, it prevents you from working in that field or for a certain company. It's basically like a list of companies you can't work for a given length of time after you leave. Now, the platonic ideal of a non-compete is the idea of like, what if you're an engineer who works for like a top car company or something, and you quit, and then you immediately go and join another car company, and then suddenly that car company starts like developing a lot of tech very similar to yours or some shit like that. In reality, that is not how non-compete agreements are used. Non-compete agreements are used psychotically and indiscriminately by corporations to just over their workers and make it harder for them to quit by limiting their job options after they do quit. I have seen people being issued non-compete agreements while working at like a Chipotle's. Like, hey, you can't work in any fast food restaurant in the city if you quit for a period of 2 years. It's like, you? Are you joking? What, like, oh, the secret of the red sauce that I'm gonna bring to Taco Bell? They only do shit like that because it makes it harder for you to quit. It makes you more dependent on them because you're legally prevented from doing other work when you get out. Like, it's psychotic shit. I can see a couple of like hyper specific examples of non-competes maybe being ethically justifiable at the cutting edge of some like research tech firms. Like if Boston Dynamics was maybe a bit antsy about their like guys quitting and moving like over to another tech company or something. But ideally, if you want your workers to not quit and go leave and join the other company, you should pay them a lot. like that's the if you want to keep your workers around and keep them from being disloyal in that way, there's a way of doing that that's not through non-compete agreements. You can simply treat them like kings, you know? Like if you care that much about keeping them around, you better be willing to pay for it.
Legislating in Minnesota, the way that you're supposed to legislate, when you get the power, that's when you put these things through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You don't get hung up on, we only have one vote majority. We've got to do everything we can to protect that majority. If you think that way and it inhibits you from doing what you think is right, it is not going to end up protecting that majority any more so than doing this stuff. In fact, I would argue this is how you saw the enthusiasm for the, you know,
the school lunches, the kids, you know, cheering. I mean, it was a well done photo op, but everyone's going to be every normal person's going to be enthusiastic about that.
I mean,
all normal humans will be happy for shit like that. It's only inhuman psychopath reptilian lizards who are not happy for stuff like that.
doing this is not only important for all the people that it helps, but not doing this is a favor to fascism that that every Democrat from Ilhan to like Durbin apparently is concerned about. And like you look at this paid family leave thing. I've been very critical of the Minnesota Republican Party. I think they're as rancid as any in the country. But when you actually have Democrats proposing things like paid family leave, it makes the Republicans try to act normal. They have to get in there with something like, oh, we're going to do optional private insurance plan.
Yeah, talking about these issues forces local Republicans to have to argue against them, and that makes them look really bad. If you're trying to, like, if you have the balls to put, like, yeah, here, free school lunches, let's talk about it, then Republicans have to be there on camera in the state house going, well, I personally don't give a shit whether kids eat or not. You can starve, bucko. And that just does not look good for them. It doesn't. This is why this is such a refutation of standard Democratic logic. The standard logic of the Democrats is that in purple states, in areas where things could go either way, you want to play moderate, you want to play close to the chest, you want to play it quiet, which is cuck logic. It's baby bitch logic. It's wrong. It's wrong. The best thing to do when you in areas where there's high contention is you play to populism and you play it hard. You go as hard as you can on every issue that you can. You play it up. You go forward. You go way harder than Republicans can, because Republicans can never argue against free meals for school children as hard as you can argue in favor of it. They just can't, because they're demons. And the average person, even the average Republican voter, is not going to hear out a bunch of multimillionaires in cowboy hats, I guess not in Minnesota, but you know what I mean, explain why their child deserves to starve.
And with tax incentives for employees, right? Whereas like if the Democrats are the one proposing that like milquetoast crap, then the Republicans can go be like, well, actually, we're going to make this about, I don't know, throwing immigrants out or something.
It's about framing it, right? And like setting the debate yourself or setting the contours of it yourself. And like the fact that, again, they just have this 1-seat majority in the state Senate, it's ironic because like in the U.S. Senate, we also just have a 1-seat majority and there's no ability for...
We have the filibuster.
We have the filibuster, but like...
Which they could get rid of if they wanted to. They can get rid of the filibuster.
This is what actual democracy looks like in Minnesota. And Minnesota borders Wisconsin, another state that is like kind of on the cusp of beating back a lot of extremist Republican gains that were made during the Obama administration and Trump and the Tea Party era, right? So this is a lesson to Wisconsin too, like this can happen maybe there.
Look at this clip of a Minnesota Republican arguing against free school lunch. Yes, an example.
I have yet to meet a person in Minnesota that is hungry. Yet today, I have yet to meet a person in Minnesota that says they don't have access to enough food to eat. Now,
oh my God, look at this guy in the back. Look at this guy in the back. He's like, holy shit, dude. Holy shit. You've never left your country club. Holy shit.
I should say that hunger is a relative term, Mr. President. You know, I had a cereal bar for breakfast. I guess I'm hungry now.
This is why you have to talk about these issues, because it reveals how horrible they are. This is why. This is real. I didn't know this clip existed when I started talking about how it's necessary to force them to take the other position on this. But there you go. Oh my God. They're retarded? No, they're evil. This guy doesn't leave his country club. He's evil. He doesn't care. Minnesota lawmaker argues against marijuana legislation because sniffer dogs would lose jobs. What?
Of all that and retraining, what's going to cost our local law enforcement agencies who've done these dogs, who've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on these dogs to get these dogs drug trained, and now they're
how much is it going to cost to not do something? What?
Going to have to be retired. That's a big issue. I was the mayor of Faribault and actually did a fundraising campaign to raise money to get a police dog, to have a drug dog, and now that money is going to go away because these dogs can't be used anymore, given that. So there's a huge cost there.
Were these people dropped as children? No, they're just evil. They're evil. They're evil people. They're evil. They're evil. The biggest red pill politically is just sometimes it's that chatter had the term informed simplicity. There's a lot of stuff in the world that's complicated, but the morality of Republicans is not one of them. Republican politicians, I should say. The morality of Republican voters is plenty complicated. The politicians?
They have a Democratic governor. Hopefully, with like the new maps from the state Supreme Court, they can get some more Democrats in place and act with the respective urgency.
Oh, sorry. Here's a GOP candidate for Minnesota Lieutenant Governor Matt Burke talking on the day that Roe was overturned.
But obviously, it's not over. Our culture loudly, but also stealthily promotes abortion. You know, telling women they should look a certain way, they should have careers, all these things. It's real now. An abortion, again, rape is obviously a horrible thing, but an abortion is not gonna heal the wounds of that.
What? Twitter. Come on, Twitter.
It's not over, but an abortion is not gonna heal the wounds of that.
What? Elon!
Probably saw 20 times online today.
Whatever.
Was about rape, and obviously, they always want to go to the rape card, right? Which is, I say, great. If you want to agree on the other 99.8% of pregnancies, if we're right there, then let's talk about the 0.2%. But rape is obviously a horrible thing. Shortly after,
Sorry, Elon is throttling the bandwidth to this specific video because it makes Republicans look bad. He's right now chewing on the wires. He's trying to find the wire that leads to this video in my computer specifically. Whatever. You get it. You understand.
Like, it is so frustrating to live in New York State, a blue state like this, and understand that even though we're basically blue the entire time, we have a Democratic governor, we've got Democratic state legislature, there is no urgency to pass similar things in the same way, because when it becomes stagnant like that, it creates its own corruption. But these things are possible, obviously.
And I think a difference too is that as opposed to the Minnesota Democratic DFL, Democratic Farmer Labor Party, the point of the New York Democratic Party infrastructure is to attack the left and to crush the left.
100%. Mm-hmm.
There is no, like, they've made it very clear that they really have no interest in winning or actually achieving any sort of gains in the legislature with their power. They'd rather just, crap on.
Keep in mind that New York Democrats are going to be the most institutionally entrenched, the wealthiest, and the ones with the most connections to Wall Street. Obviously, because Wall Street is there.
Progressive state legislators and issue press releases crapping on AOC for saying one thing or the other. So it's also a difference in priorities as well.
Well, yeah, I mean this is the New York State Democratic Party is sort of like more like a gang than anything else.
Yeah.
But the point, the larger lesson here is you when you get the power, you use it. You use it like you're getting away in a getaway car. And we've seen the Republicans do this whenever they get into power. And also, these voting measures as a minimum.
Perpetual Juniper W. Juniper consistently the best shit poster. Maybe even the best poster. Also, I think she doesn't fully hate me. So that's cool. That's like the one person who doesn't. That's great. Game recognized game, I suppose.
Automatic voter registration. Expanding the franchise, that is also something that enhances your power. Building out the opportunity, making it easier for people to unionize, and giving them more reason to unionize also builds your power.
Feed people.
And providing material benefits to people. It doesn't have a one-to-one relationship in terms of them supporting you down the road. But the point is it's definitely going to help. But there are specific measures that you can take that are associated with increasing your power, and expanding the franchise has been shown to help Democrats. That's why Republicans are so against people voting. They have been explicit about this over the years. They know the fewer people who vote, ultimately, the better for them.
It's what Matt said earlier in reference.
That's why Republicans are so interested in harping on the line that we aren't in a democracy, we're in a constitutional republic, which is an idiotic thing to say because those aren't mutually exclusive. A republic and a democracy are not mutually exclusive. They're like, that's like saying constitution, like having a constitution means you can't be a democracy. It doesn't make any sense. It's both. And for two, they've been openly talking about raising the age of voting because they're terrified of Gen Z with all their pronouns and stuff.
Reference to Biden and the debt ceiling fight. Like, Democrats can't get into power and just maintain. It's literally irresponsible when you have a party as extreme as the Republican Party.
Speaking of maintenance, David Day in 12:47, so about a half hour or 15 minutes ago. So Joe Biden, who mumbles in public about, quote, having the authority, end quote, to continue paying the nation's bills, has signaled intention to file opposition to the case challenging the constitutionality of the debt ceiling statute. It's not that the Biden or the...
What is politics? Introducing politics into these politics? Come on. What are we talking about here? I think we get the point. Sorry for stealing content, my good friends. The Majority Report that I've still never been on somehow. Give the video a like. You're right. I think Matt doesn't like you. Matt Binder? No, Matt Binder and I actually get along. Believe it or not.